Welcome to the Resilient Retail Game Plan, a podcast for anyone wanting to start, grow or scale a profitable creative product business with me, Catherine Eardley. The Resilient Retail Game Plan is a podcast dedicated to one thing, breaking down the concepts and tools that I've gathered from 20 years in the retail industry and showing you how you can use them in your business. This is the real nuts and bolts of running a successful product business, broken down in an easy, accessible way. This is not a podcast about learning how to make your business look good. It's the tools and techniques that will make you and your business feel good. Confidently plan, launch and manage your products, and feel in control of your sales numbers and cash flow to help you build a resilient retail business. Welcome to this episode of the Resilient Retail Game Plan. Thank you so much for being here. My name is Catherine Eardley and I'm your host as well as the founder of the Resilient Retail Club. The Resilient Retail Club is my membership group for creative product businesses and you can find out more at resilientretailclub.com. I can't believe this is episode 28. Thank you so much to everyone who's tuning in. I do really appreciate each and every one of my listeners, so thank you so much. And if you are interested in this topic, which is all about where to sell your products, I do definitely recommend that you check out resilientretailclub.com/toolkits. Get your hands on the totally free Start Your Business Toolkit. It's got lots of resources, including a PDF all about all of the different selling platforms. So today's episode is about where you sell your products. And I'm just going to start from the very beginning, start with basics really. If you are first starting out and you want to know about how to get started, then ultimately, if you think about it, it's very simple. In the simplest form, you selling your products is literally about you having a way of conveying what those products are to your customer and then taking payment. In its absolute rawest form, you can do sales through Instagram, for example, through DMs, through Facebook groups or Facebook pages and messages. And you can literally get started that way. There are several businesses, even ones that have been going for a little while, who are just literally doing it by having highlights with pictures of their products. So if you've got a product and you're really struggling to get it out there, or you're waiting to build a website, I would say just get going. Just put it up there. If somebody DMs you and say, can you post it to me? Say, yes, sure, absolutely. And then as long as you've got a PayPal link or a way of taking payment, then why not get going? Obviously, this is not really sustainable. It's a lot of hard work. It takes a lot of effort. There's a lot of back and forth often. It does work quite well, I think, for personalized options when you're going to have a discussion about the product anyway. But if you've got a product that you just want to sell, then the next step is usually working out how you can get a website up and running. The only reason I mentioned the sort of quick start version without having a website is one of the things that I'd really love you to take away from this is that when you're first starting out, you want to be as nimble as possible, which means not sinking tons of money into a website up front. Sometimes I talk to people who've been quoted £5,000, £10,000 for somebody to build them out a website. And usually my advice is that if you are just starting, if you haven't even sold any products yet, just get going. Do it whichever way you can. If it's selling through social, or if it's creating a website yourself through one of the very many plug and play options, then I'd much rather see you do that than put a huge amount of money up front into a website before you've really proven the concept of your business at all. Probably about 5-10 years ago, then you would have had to pay that kind of money for somebody to build you a transactional website. But happily for us, we're in an era where there are lots of different options for you that even if you're not hugely technically minded, it is something that you can create yourself. The other thing that I would say as well is that some people, the next step for them is actually going straight to a third-party platform like Etsy. And again, I don't actually think that's a bad approach. Etsy, sometimes even eBay. eBay maybe not so much for design-led product, but if your products are maybe more practical, then why not? But Etsy or eBay, they allow you to dip your toe in the water, get yourself out there, get your product up in front of an audience, and basically just make a start. And I'd rather see somebody do it that way round than spend months and months and months coming up with the perfect, in quotation marks, website when actually you don't really know if the product sells, if you've got a proposition that people like, if your price points are right. There's so many things you don't know yet that you wouldn't want to be sinking tons of money into a website before you've actually tested everything. The next step after that, I think very quickly, I would recommend that you start thinking about your own website. The reason I say that, I've got an episode 14, which is all about selling on other marketplaces. I go into it in a little bit more detail in that episode. So it's definitely worth giving it a listen if you're thinking about selling on marketplaces and all of the pros and cons. But basically what you want to do is create your own space on the web for people to come to. If people see your name, whether it's mentioned by other businesses, whether it's in PR, whatever it might be, then the first thing they're going to go and do is they're going to go look you up and they're going to click on your website link. If you don't have a website, if you're sending them to Etsy, for example, then you're really hampered by the amount of information that you can share about you and your business. So very quickly, you want then that your place, your home on the web, your opportunity to tell people who you are, who your business is, what you stand for, and to get yourself and your products out there. I like to think about the different selling channels as kind of being on like a continuum, if you like. So at one end, you've got your own website, and on that end, you have got complete control over every aspect. You control what every page looks like, what the user journey's like, everything about the experience that somebody has when they come to your website. But the flip side of that is that all of the traffic is something that you have to generate. You have to generate your own traffic to your website. The other end of the spectrum, the third-party websites, where there is huge amounts of traffic because they are pushing that traffic to their websites, but you don't have control. It's the complete other end of the spectrum. You can control your product listing descriptions and your pricing for sure, but you can't control how people really perceive your brand, if they're going to even see your full range together, or if they're going to just see you as part of a search result. So they're two very different beasts. And that's why, again, having your own website is important. Also, then you can start to collect those all-important email addresses, because you are not in the business of selling products, you are in the business of gaining customers, which means that you need to have a way to connect to those customers after they've purchased from you. Whereas if you're on a third-party marketplace, then that third-party marketplace owns the relationship. They own that customer, and they will do everything that they can to keep that customer on their platform, rightly so, for them, but not necessarily for you. So your own website is important. The next question I get asked usually after, do I need to have my own website, or how do I get started quickly? The next question I get asked is, who should I use? And my answer is always Shopify. Now, some people then mistake Shopify for a marketplace. Now, there are talks about Shopify creating marketplaces, but actually what they are at the moment, they are a website platform. So like WordPress or Squarespace, Shopify are a Canadian company. And what makes them unique is that they are designed for e-commerce. Most of the other website platforms out there have e-commerce elements that you can add in, but Shopify, ground up, was built for e-commerce, which means that generally speaking, well, there's lots of different things about Shopify that make it really appealing. So first off is what you might call the tech stack. So tech stack, in other words, all of the different pieces of technology that you use in your business. With Shopify, they have a marketplace with apps and app developers, and you can, in the words of an e-commerce expert who was on a panel talk that I was at once, said, you could build on Shopify the same tech stack that John Lewis has, but you could do it in 45 minutes at a minute fraction of the cost. And frankly, it probably will work better than John Lewis's tech stack because it's all been designed around one platform, Shopify, and it will work together. So that means that you can have your website, you can also have your loyalty scheme, for example. You can have almost endless numbers of add-ons. Now, lots of free ones. There are some that you have to pay for. That is one of the criticisms that gets leveled at Shopify, is that once you start adding on things, it can end up being more expensive than the other platforms, which is fair enough. But it doesn't get around the fact that Shopify is just fully functioned for e-commerce. No, I'm not sponsored by Shopify, although frankly I should be. The other thing is that their analytics, even on the basic analytics package, which is fairly basic, but you get some key stats, which is really good and useful, and generally better than a lot of other website platforms' stats for e-commerce. another point in Shopify's favor is that you will not outgrow it. So basically, there are businesses, so Gymshark, for example, which I believe hit £1 billion recently, they're on Shopify. So they haven't outgrown it. Now they've got Shopify Plus, which is what the kind of bigger multi-million pound businesses use. But still, it's still Shopify. They didn't have to re-platform. They didn't have to change anything. They just basically changed their package. So there's lots of scope for growth. It's not like you're going to get to a point where you think, do you know what, we need to upscale, we need to change our website. Occasionally, I do meet people who don't like Shopify, just to be completely transparent. But I would say it is a rarity. Most people I know who have a Shopify website love it. Most people I know who don't have a Shopify website kind of wish they did. And it just works. It's got tons of support. There's lots of ways that you can do it yourself. Or there are courses where you can do a course to teach you how to do your Shopify website. But generally speaking, it is pretty easy to get to grips with. As I said, I do have to say that very occasionally I meet people who don't like it, but most people have a really great experience with it. And I do know that there are some tricky things about the Shopify SEO. So that's the search engine optimization, how easy it is for websites to, for Google to discover your website. But to be honest, I don't think Shopify search engine optimization is any worse than any of the other big platforms. It's just the fact that it's a kind of build it yourself platform. So that would be my pick in a nutshell. As I said at the beginning of this episode, there is a toolkit for starting your business with lots of great information. It includes a selling platform, PDF, so you can definitely take a look at that. It goes through the different options and the different pricing, so you can have a look. But if you ask what my recommendation is for where you should sell your products, I would say you would be hard pushed to go wrong with a Shopify website. And if you've got a physical store, then Shopify plays very nicely with some other types of POS systems, so point of sale systems that shops would use. For example, they also have their own Shopify POS, as well as they work with several others. That is possibly the one area that I've heard more complaints than most, where people have had some issues with Shopify in a physical store. But generally speaking, I have to say Shopify as a platform, it works really well. So you've started selling, you've got your own website. One thing I just say before I move on from websites, I mean, there's lots you can say about websites, but I would say if you're at the sort of starting out phase, then again, the other great thing about Shopify, it's really optimized for conversion. So it's optimized to get people through your checkout really smoothly and simply. They also have Shop Pay, which means that if you're somebody who buys from Shopify websites quite regularly, it's almost like a bit of a PayPal. So it just speeds up the process. So the whole thing is just smoother. The other big thing I would say about getting your own website is the one place that I always recommend people invest in at the beginning. I'm a big believer in keeping your costs really low and tight and being as nimble as possible to start off with. But I would suggest that you invest in some decent product photography. It will help you in so many different elements of your business. It will help you get your website looking really great. It will help you with your social media looking really strong. It will help you with your wholesale, for example. There's so many ways and options and things that you can do that will just make your business stand out if you have really great imagery. So then what happens after you've got your own website? If you are thinking of other places that you can sell, then the world is your oyster, really. I would say, though, that get really focused on having a good, solid website for yourself that can point people into your web presence. And then I would be mindful of which other sales channels you add in. I'm a big believer that you have to do it in a way that means that you're not taking up too much of your time and energy, because there are now literally hundreds and hundreds of third-party platforms that you could be part of. There are many marketplaces. There are multiple events. There are many, one day, hopefully, physical events. There are so many different options if you want to expand your reach and start selling your products in other places. And I think the key thing is that you ask yourself a few questions before you agree to do anything. And that is whether it's anything, events, starting a new platform, whether that's trying to get listed or not on the high street or selling on Etsy. Before you dive into these, because don't forget, your limitations as a small business owner are your time and your money. So if you go into too many different avenues, you could very quickly find, even if it's not sucking up all of your money, it's going to be sucking up a lot of your time. So just be aware of that and don't overcommit yourself. Ask yourself a few questions. What do you have the capability within your business to handle right now? Do you have the time and effort and energy to be putting up multiple listings in multiple places and really pushing your business in lots of different ways? And the most important question is, where is your customer? So if somebody approaches you with a marketplace that they've launched, ask yourself, is my customer there? Do the other brands that are on this marketplace reflect my brand? Or if you approached about taking part in an event or you see an event being advertised, is this going to appeal to my customer? Again, the other people taking part, who are they? Are they also for my target customer? Do I feel confident that my customer is going to be coming to this event? All of these things are really, really important for you to ask yourself before you commit any of your time and energy to events, to any other selling channel. Basically, you have to ask yourself, am I doing enough already pushing sales to my own website? Am I doing enough there already? Or could I be putting some of that time and effort that these other events are going to require? Could I put that into the kind of main selling channel? Now, it's not to say that they can't be great opportunities. They absolutely can be. They can be chances for you to get in front of more of your ideal customers. And it can be a great way to network, to get to know other businesses, and to get different ways of getting your products promoted. But in terms of then sales channel strategy, it should always come down to that. How much capacity have I got in the business? What's it going to take away from the main sort of day-to-day of running the business? And is it the right thing to do? Or should I just keep focusing on all of the different things that I need to do to drive the traffic to my website? So I hope you enjoyed this episode. It's short and sweet today. As I mentioned, if you go to resilientretailclub.com/toolkits, then you will be able to get your hands on the Start Your Business Toolkit. And it has a selling platform guide that goes not only into the various different website providers in more detail. Spoiler alert, though, I do suggest Shopify. And it also goes through third-party marketplaces and give you some food for thought on that area too. And as I said, episode number 14 is selling on other marketplaces. So definitely go check that one out. And also episode 19, which is driving traffic to your website. So if you are at that stage where you're setting up your own website or you've got one and you want to know about how to get more traffic there, then definitely go check out episode number 19 of the Resilient Retail Game Plan as well. I hope you enjoyed this episode. If you have, then do come along, follow me on Instagram at Resilient Retail Club. Tag me where you're listening. I do love it when people share where they're listening to the podcast. Please also do take a moment, just take seconds to rate the podcast, review it if you have 2 moments. And don't forget, if you subscribe, then you'll be the first to hear about new episodes as they are released. If you've enjoyed this week's episode, then I invite you to check out resilientretailclub.com. The Resilient Retail Club is the membership for anyone wanting to start, grow, or scale a profitable product business. No more trawling Google trying to find the answers to your questions or wading through general business advice that speaks mainly to service-based businesses. Whether you're still at the idea stage or you've been going for a while but want to get more focused and organised when it comes to your business, the Resilient Retail Club is the place for you. With a library of courses tailored to creative product businesses, several live sessions a month, and a supportive and active community, the Resilient Retail Club is the perfect membership to help you hit your goals faster. Check it out at resilientretailclub.com.